Good afternoon. Everybody come on in. There are a few seats out here still. Please come have a seat. Anywhere you want, maybe snuggle up a little bit on the couch. If you're really brave, sit on the steps here is fine. Just want everyone to be able to come in and we'll get started with our author. All right. Great. Well, I just want to say it's really fabulous to see so many people here today. I don't know many of Claire's Pasadena friends, and so it really makes me happy to see so many people here supporting her. So thank you for being here. Just as a quick introduction, I'm just going to tell you that the one thing that I liked about the book, Claire, is that our friendship is like a bookend for the book. Because we met before this all happened in 2002 in St. Andrews, Scotland. And like all academics, we went our ways. And when we came back together, I had this vague idea of what had been going on in their lives since we had seen them last. And so I appreciated that our story continues. So, I know. So we just wanted to ask a few questions, Claire, about the book. How did you come to write this book? Why? What were you thinking?
Well, I wasn't really thinking. But about 3 years ago, most of you know that Oliver and I help Mathilda at night to take her medication. And we usually do one night on and one night off, and that sort of seems to work well. And one particular night, Oliver was on duty, and I can't remember why, but he seemed to be up more than usual. And when that happens, we sort of give up trying to sleep, and he goes and makes a cup of tea. And he came back to the bedroom and he said, you know, we should write a book about this. And I thought it was brilliant because he's a writer, he's brilliant. And I had all the dates in my head, and so what I thought he meant was that he would write it and I would just give him, you know, it was May 2010 or this happened. And then what sort of transpired over the months, sort of this idea buried itself in my mind, and it really became my story and my book, and he just gave it to me. So,
thanks, Claire. So, almost all of us have probably said at one time or another, I want to write a book. I'm going to write this great book. But we never do it, but you did it. So how did you do that? What was the process? How did you actually write the book?
I started about 3 years ago, and I literally, for the first 7 weeks, just stared at a blank screen. And I cried, actually. I cried because I thought, I can't do it, I don't want to relive it. But inside me, it's like one of those times when, you know, in your life, you look back and you think, I've had fire in my belly for something. And that's happened to me 3 times. The first time was when I wanted to train to be a physiotherapist. And I actually failed, you know, the whole of the first year, and thought, I really want to do this. And the second time I had fire in my belly is when everyone told me you shouldn't home educate your children. And I thought, no, I can, and I should. And the third time was the book. So I was really motivated, but it was physically hard. So I used to work between 10 and 2, my most awake time. And then once the children were home, that was it, was all over, really. And then it's that thing, isn't it, where, you know, you sort of, it seems overwhelming, and on some days it was, and I just sort of, you know, went to a coffee shop or did a spin class or something. But actually, it's the little things. It's you sort of build on something really small, and then I might force myself to write 500 words, and the next day look at it and it's sort of rubbish, but maybe 3 of those words were decent, and it's just keep going on the one that each day builds, and then 3.5 years later.
That's great, thank you. So I really enjoyed the book. I enjoyed it so much that my next question is, are you writing another book?
Well, that's interesting. Not this week, I'm not. I'm taking tomorrow off. Well, it's really funny. What's that, Elliot? I'm writing Elliot. Oh my word, where would I start? Elliot, you know what, I might just do that. So you better start behaving. What was the question? Oh, my writing notebook. You know, it's funny because I was looking last year I was coming to the end of the writing process, and I was thinking about how to market and promote the book, because I'm not sure if most of you realise that I actually set up my own publishing company to publish it, because I was so fed up with waiting for agents and publishers, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to tell this story, and it needs to be heard. And so with the problem with that is that you are everything. You're the marketer, and I started to look at marketing and promotion, and I came across this time and time again that the best-selling books are actually trashy romance. So I might team up with Rebecca Farlow and write something trashy. I need some ideas, some romantic ideas. No, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. Oh, I might do the screenplay for the book and sell it to Hollywood.
Well, I was just thinking about your blog. Do you want to tell us just a little bit about your blog? Is that okay? We didn't discuss that, but do you want to drink a water while chit-chat? Okay.
Yeah, I started writing a blog a few years ago because you're supposed to do that when you're a writer. You can sort of practice on people, really. And I didn't want to do it. I was very reluctant when I started it, but Rebecca Farlow set me up with this brilliant template. And those of you that know me well know that I'm not technical at all. And so it was quite stressful as I sat there trying to, you know, click and drag the stupid picture. So I had a lot of help with Rebecca, and I started blogging and just writing about things that were current, about narcolepsy and how you kind of care for someone in your family that's sort of chronically ill. So, and then the website got revamped at the end of the year again by Rebecca. If any of you need a web designer, check her out, she's brilliant. And the blogging became a way for me to connect with people all over the world who have a similar story to ours, and it's a wonderful thing because on one hand you sort of make yourself vulnerable and say, this is who we are and this is my family, but on the other hand you get so much back from that. So I was really able to connect with lots of parents and people with narcolepsy, and it gave me some opportunities to speak at the Narcolepsy Network and win the, I think it was 2015 Patient Awareness Award. So if you're thinking about blogging, I recommend it. I'm still a bit of a slacker with the blog, but maybe I'll get to it soon.
Good, thanks Claire for that. So I just wanted to kind of turn our attention to how can we help get Waking Mathilda into the hands of people all over. And one way, get onto Amazon once you've read the book and write a review for her. When you're done with your book, pass it to your next door neighbor or someone at work. And then also, and today, any photos that you take, if you like to use social media, please post them on social media, #WakingMathilda, so they all get in the same spot, so their family especially can enjoy all the pictures of what's going on today as well. Yes, are you ready?
Yeah. Thanks. Do you want to get down? I'm joking with Nicole because in all seriousness, and this actually isn't serious, because I did have someone approach me a couple of weeks ago and say, you know, we're really interested in your story to make it into a film, and I practically fell over laughing, but I was speaking to Nicole and she said, you know, it's good, just make sure I'm Scarlett Johansson. So she is right. I said it's all right, I'm Kate Winslet. Okay, so I want to introduce someone who's been a really large part of our lives, played a significant role in our time before we came here and our time here, and her name is Marley Einin. And Marley is here today. She's come down from San Francisco, and when I first met her in 2010, it was really through phone. But Mathilda was diagnosed, and we were so desperate to try and find someone to really help us because we couldn't get treatment. And I'd figured out that Stanford was the leading centre for narcolepsy research in the world, and got hold of Marley's number. and she rang me back, and Marley has narcolepsy and had had it since she was 22, and apart from this little girl that I was trying to care for, I'd never spoken or met anyone with narcolepsy. So Marley was willing to speak to our doctors back then, and she became very instrumental in us moving here and Mathilda having access with Professor Mignot. But Marley gave me something else, and that was a window into Mathilda's world, because I couldn't understand her and I couldn't reach her and she couldn't articulate herself. So Marley really was that person that enabled me to reach Mathilda, and it's a great honour for her to be here today, for me personally and for her family. And are you okay with a couple of questions? All right, Marley Einen, give it up. Can you just tell us in a nutshell what narcolepsy is?
Well, I could give you the medical answer, but I'm not sure anybody's interested in that. Narcolepsy is largely misunderstood. I think everybody thinks they know what narcolepsy is, and very few people actually understand all that it entails. I think the sleepiness is the most challenging symptom. I've described it as using every ounce and every cell of energy and every cell in your body to make it through the next 10 minutes of your life all the time, which makes it hard to kind of be thoughtful and present if you're working so hard to stay awake. But it also comes with a collection of other symptoms as well that are largely misunderstood. Cataplexy, which is probably the most unusual, that when Claire and I were speaking earlier, it sort of robs you of joy. It happens most commonly with happy emotions, that your body, you lose muscle tone and collapse as if you were in REM sleep, but in response to things that are happy and somebody being funny. But enough about the medical side of things. Mostly, I want to say that a story, as Claire was telling us about beginning to write the book. Early on, she came up to Stanford and visited Dr. Mignot with Mathilda, and she'd asked if I would meet with her for dinner as she was talking about crafting this book. And I'm always trying to be a better person with narcolepsy, in that sometimes my sleepiness can come rather suddenly. So at the beginning of the dinner, I said to her, by the way, I'll let you know when I think I'm kind of reaching my limit, because this was at the end of a long day. And so at some point, I mentioned to her, as we're having this discussion about this potential book that she's going to write, and I say to her, because I'm trying to be proactive about taking care of myself, I say, I think, I'm kind of getting close to my limit. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I've got another half hour before I'm actually going to hit the wall and really need to go home. And I mentioned that to her, and in 30 seconds flat, Bill had come, she had paid it, and we were standing up and saying, we need to go. And it actually touched my heart so much, because I thought, oh, she gets it. She really is tuned in to understanding. And I said to Claire earlier today, I wish everyone could have a Claire as their mother, who really goes that extra mile to really understand what it's like to have narcolepsy, because I think it's hard for people who don't have narcolepsy to understand, and sometimes we're not so good at letting people really get it either. Thank you. Did you want to ask Marley anything? You're good. So I just want to give some big thank yous to everyone for coming. It's you're all here because, if you want to. I'm over. You've all played a really significant role in our lives since we've moved here. And when a family moves to a new country, in fact, the only people we knew were Darian and Nicole and Matt Jensen, who are all here today. And even then, we hadn't seen them for, I think, 8 years, although we'd been in touch. But, it is overwhelming. And, of course, our situation wasn't very straightforward. So my thanks to you for
not just helping me with this book and being here today, but for playing a huge role in our lives. I'm looking around and I'm seeing teachers that get it, and I'm seeing friends at Fuller and from Knox and from our school, and even more widely than that get it. So my heartfelt thanks to you all. Now I've got some special thank you, because this, I kid you not, would not be here if it wasn't for the incredible talent and team effort of James and Rebecca Farlow. Where are you? Oh, they're gone?
Right here.
No. I need
Claire.
you. Oh, you're James. Where's Rebecca? So, very quickly, Rebecca is writing a book called Scavenger Hunt, and it comes out very soon. And we started working together because I needed the help, really, with the technical side, and James was the person responsible for formatting, and Rebecca has done so much on the tech side with me, with the websites and so forth. And you know, these crazy things would happen where we would upload a page, and I'd be staring at the screen and saying, James, why is the number 15 upside down? I did not write it upside down. And I mean, I'm really thinking this is ridiculous. I'm going to get this book out, and they're going to say the woman can't write. And he always said every time we met, and we've met about 3 times a week since October, and he said, I think I know why. And he did. So I have a little something for you both. So thank you. It's a cool space to work in. Oh my word. So this office is owned by a company called Conscious Minds, and I want to thank them and Jonathan Green. Not quite sure how they get any work done here, but thanks for donating the space for that 30-foot bar over there. Jonathan was also my cover artist. Isn't it cool? I'd sent him some pictures last year. This one actually ended up being on the back, because I had in mind, I'm going to use that picture of Mathilda with the pink dress and everything. So I said to him, I know you're going to do the cover up, but it doesn't have to be really fancy, just use my picture and put some nice words on. And I met with him in January, and he knows us really well, and Theodore is in Mathilda's class, and he just said, go a bit deeper with the story, and I sent him some images, and about 2 weeks later he sent me 7 different options for cover art. And the pink dress was on there. He did do that for me. But when I saw this, and it's actually an image lifted from a video, and it was the video that diagnosed Mathilda back in the UK. So I saw it on the email. It was about 5 in the morning, and I rang Oliver, who was at the gym, and he's like, "What's happened?" Because I only ever call him if the dog's having a seizure or we're about to rush someone else into hospital. Actually, it's usually him. He's turned down now. Look. So, and I said, no, it's a cover art. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it. So, Jonathan, thank you. What's happened? Oh, this might be a good time to say that I went into town yesterday and got Jonathan a gift. And I got a really horrible parking citation. Because I never go into town. Anyway, okay, so it's actually, the parking citation costs more than the gift, so I'm really annoyed. I haven't told you about that yet, have I? Oh, did you find the... Oh, alright, sorry about that. So, Khalees Green. I met Khalees at school, and years ago, really, and she gave me a birthday gift. There were 3. These check cards you can get that says, I'll write you a you know, I'm going to donate an evening and we're going to have a movie together. And one of them says, I'll throw you a party. And I thought at the time, you know, I don't do parties. So I stuffed it in my drawer. And then at the end of last year, I thought, all right, and I cashed it in. And Police Green is my very own Nigella Lawson. And she's done all this fancy footwork today. Please come forward, please do. Like to ask Joyce Denzel to come forward too. She's been baking for about 36 hours, I think, and has been a great friend. And it's a small token. Okay, all right, we're nearly there. I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. That would be terrible. Okay, so I had this nice little speech planned about Oliver, the professor. And this morning he said, no, it's not going to work. And he's really, really good at going up to the moment where he does a presentation or a paper. And I need a few weeks. So when he told me this morning, please don't say any of that, it threw me a little bit. So I obviously wouldn't be here without Oliver. He is my partner. He takes 50% of the doses, even though he holds down a demanding job. And every day for the last few years, he sent me a text and it said, "You can do this, Wonder Woman," or something. There's been like, "I believe in you, you go girl," and all this sort of stuff, which really only demonstrates that he's acclimated to right? So I'm going to thank him later. And I didn't give my kids the option of me not saying anything. And I do, it's really important for me because at face value, this story is about Mathilda, isn't it? But it isn't really. It's about all of us, and it's about Liberty and Elliot. Yes. And I remember when Mathilda got sick, and I had this moment with Libby, and she was only about 9 or 10. I hope she's here. Is Elliot here? Oh yeah, they are here. And I was standing at in the microwave reheating some coffee because no one believed me that Mathilda was ill. And the doctors were losing patience, and I remember saying to her, am I making it up? Because I actually started to think maybe I was going a bit crazy and maybe they should send me to the psych unit. And she said, no, Mum, she is ill. It's just I don't like to see you cry. And I remember saying to Libby, if it was you that had narcolepsy or Elliot, I would cry the same amount of tears and I would do the same. And it's true. And what is hard about this is when anyone has a chronic illness, as many of you know, in a family, it skews things. And so I want to honour Libby and Elliot. And I'm just going to read one little thing. I can find it. There you go. Okay, lifetime of heartfelt thanks go to our 2 older children, Liberty Alice and Elliot Anselm. I truly appreciate your gracious acceptance of our new life in a new place and the energy with which you face each day and the way you accommodate Mathilda's needs and ours. You are an inspiration, a ray of sunlight, and both of you are the very best company there is. I'm going to leave it at that. Mathilda, I have the utmost respect for how you faced your fear of hospitals and doctors, for how you tackle every day and every night, and how you were growing into a young woman with narcolepsy. Our many hours of caring for you have provided an uncommon bond, despite the fears and frustrations that come with the condition. Thank you for showing me the furthest outposts of wakefulness, the depths of sleepy despair, and the Gideon heights of hope. Brave, bold, and beautiful, this journey is yours. And it is one that you've shared with us and many other children around the world with narcolepsy. Mathilda, know that in the weariness of each day and the lonely, lingering dark hours each night, as you search for sleep, you are indeed mighty in battle. And you, my little lady, are not alone. I'm getting Scarlett back up here.
Thank you, Kate. So we just, again, want to thank everyone again for being here. It's been fabulous to have everyone's support. So many people have gone into assisting Claire with the book, particulars of it, all the friendship. Again, just so many thanks. Please continue to enjoy drinks, food, come see.
I'm going to say one thing. They actually sold out of the books that are here. So, but they're going to still take sales. So you can go back there. They will still be signed copies. Pay for as many as you want, and they'll take your info and get them to you immediately when we get them. So just make sure that you get your copies. Okay? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Fred, give a shout.
Tell us a bit about how you found out about Dr. Stanford, how he came to you.
Okay, that's my Uncle Fred over there. In case you didn't recognise our accent. Yeah, I should really say why I now live near you, really. But I will. How did we find Dr. Mignot and Marley Einen? Well, it was a sort of, you know how it is in life, you know, friend, someone's got. So I found this woman who's in Italy with this 12-year-old boy with narcolepsy, and I spoke to her on the phone and she said, you know, sounds bad, she's so young. You need to go to Stanford and, or at least talk to them. I'm like, what? Never heard of it. And she gave me Marley's email, and she said, good luck. They didn't take my son, but they might take your daughter. So I did speak to Marley immediately, and she rang me, and the rest of it is in the book. And she's here, and she's responsible for Mathilda's care with meds, because it's a nightmare with the health system over here. It's just been so complicated, and then, you know, I was able to call Marley. I think for the first 3 or 4 months that we landed, I spoke to her every day, because titrating Xyrem is a really difficult drug to manage, and it's particularly difficult in a young child. So I spoke to Marley a lot, and she would say, you know, just take the dose down a bit, or I think we're good to go, we can take it up a bit, or it's totally normal, she's throwing up, or whatever it was. So that's how I met Marley, through a friend in Europe. Any other questions? You good?
Can you talk a bit about how it came about after the...
You want me to talk about the vaccine, don't you? Yeah, you know, when we got back from Princeton in 2009, I think it was, the World Health Organization had issued this, you know, global pandemic, and said the swine flu is really going to be dangerous, and we were sent a letter about the H1N1 vaccine for children. So we took Mathilda in the January to have the vaccine. She was 3 years old, and we didn't know that it hadn't been tested on children, and we didn't know it had some other chemicals in it. So it was the vaccine. In fact, Stanford have been, were really making the link back then, weren't you? At the time, you saw these kids sort of popping up all over. It's Finland, Sweden, England, Ireland, anywhere else? Norway. So we didn't put the pieces together at all, but Mathilda became sick pretty much within 2 weeks of the vaccine, and then 9 months later I was already in dialogue with Marley, but there was one phone call that said, Claire, we need to know something. Did she have the vaccine? So, yes, Selena.
Claire, I was taken aback by how much detail you remember in your book. I can't remember what happened. You know, trying to look back, I try to think. I remember when my kids started walking and I could never pinpoint it. And I'm just amazed that you have so many rich details in your writing. I mean, everybody kind of remembers their birth story.
Right.
So I guess when something is shocking, you remember it. But how were you journaling through this process, like way back when, to be able to recall these vivid details, or did that just sear so deep inside of you that you were able to pour it out?
Yeah, Selena's question is how do I remember everything in such detail? Well, I did use the medical notes. We had to bring them over with us from the UK, and when I started writing, I went through them. You know, it's like, they're pretty big. So I had the dates, because I couldn't remember exactly what date it was in May that was the first admission or whatever, so I used that. But I do think, you know, when something is kind of an emotional experience or traumatic, you don't forget it, do you? Like when you said you can't remember the day your kids walked, well, I think it's because it's quite happy.
You remember
And
giving birth?
well, yeah, we all remember giving birth, and I think Oliver in particular remembers me giving birth. You know, it was funny when he delivered Mathilda at home in the bath, and one of the kids said, "Oh, I didn't know your dad was a doctor." But then it was like one of their friends, and I think it was Libby. She said, "Yeah, he is, but not the sort that helps people." Right? Well, it was amazing. So I think he remembers the birth, and I think we all, you know, we all do. We do remember things that are frightening and threaten the future of our family. So I do remember it. I should have been journaling. Yeah. Any other questions? Are we ready to wrap up? Well, thank you so much for coming. I'll let you know when the movie's out, and I'll let you know how Scarlett gets on the red carpet. Thank you so much. Please enjoy what there is to eat. There's no rush. There's Khaleesi's, she's keeps me.
Well, she's saying thank you to everybody else, but I just want, if you have a drink in your hand, toast to her. I think we're all here because we love her so much, and we're so proud of her for actually finishing and doing it well. And I could never write a book. That's one thing I will never ever do. So proud of you. And
She actually could write a cookbook.
oh no, I'm not a writer. Yeah, no, I'll just throw the events. Anyways, toast to Claire and your accomplishment, and to motherhood, and we love you. Cheers.